Have you ever wondered why a relationship that causes so much pain can feel so completely impossible to leave? Well, today we're diving deep into a fascinating and frankly unsettling psychological phenomenon called emotional intoxication. We're going to explore the powerful biological and psychological systems that can hijack a relationship, making it feel way less like a partnership and a lot more like a full-blown addiction. We'll get into why this happens, how it actually works, and, most importantly, how to see the signs. Let's get into it. The most striking truth about emotional intoxication is that your soulmate might actually be a neurochemical engineer. Now, look, this isn't just some poetic metaphor. It's pointing to a very real, very observable process. It means that those overwhelming feelings of connection, of destiny, of obsession, they aren't always organic. In some dynamics, they can be the result of a process that manipulates the very chemicals in your brain responsible for love and attachment. We generally assume that high-intensity passion and obsessive thinking are signs of the ultimate love. I mean, movies and stories have taught us that a love that consumes you is the most romantic kind, right? But what we're talking about here is the idea that this all-consuming feeling isn't always love. In certain high-pressure dynamics, it's a sign that your brain's own reward system, the same system that gets hooked on things like gambling or drugs, has been hacked to make you feel addicted to a person. And that brings us right back to the central, agonizing question. Why does a relationship that causes so much pain feel so impossible to leave? It's a paradox that traps people in these awful cycles of hope and despair. The answer is that the powerful force keeping you there might not be love at all, but the powerful grip of chemical enslavement. This is the core paradox of emotional intoxication. The moment your own capacity for love is turned into the mechanism of your own chemical enslavement. Okay, so before we go any further, a really crucial point. The framework we're talking about here describes observable patterns and the reported experiences of individuals. This is not about diagnosing anyone's character or intent. Instead, think of it as an exploration of a psychological process, how the human brain can be systematically nudged into misinterpreting the very real, very intense pain of neurochemical withdrawal as some kind of profound romantic destiny.
So, to really get our heads around this, here's our game plan. First, we'll define what the chemical cage even is. Then, we'll look at the anatomy of an addiction to see the beliefs that hold it all together. From there, we'll break down the three-step cycle that creates this whole dynamic and explore the psychology behind hacking the brain. And finally, and this is the most important part, we'll cover some real steps for reclaiming your mind before we wrap it all up with our final takeaway, the steady light.
All right, let's jump right in with section 1, the chemical cage. To understand this, we need to look at this fundamental shift that happens, the journey from a healthy, secure attachment to a state of compulsive, painful dependency. This is where we lay the groundwork. So, what people call emotional intoxication has a clinical name. It's a well-documented process in behavioral science known as traumatic bonding. Now, this isn't just about having intense feelings for someone. It is a specific process where a physiological addiction is created. And when I say physiological, I mean it. We're talking about the same neural pathways as a substance addiction. But the drug here, it isn't a substance. It's another person's approval. This whole process actively dismantles and replaces what we know as secure, healthy attachment. And it's so important to get this. This dynamic isn't just about romantic relationships. This exact same process is seen all over the place. It's often found in those whirlwind romances that move at lightning speed. It's a key mechanism in high-intensity groups or cult initiations to lock in loyalty. And you can even see it in predatory mentorships, where a sense of obligation is manufactured that creating that need for the mentor's validation. This slide just lays it out so clearly. On one side, you've got autonomous love. That's a sovereign choice you make to be with someone. It feels stable because it's built on secure attachment. But on the other side, you have compulsive dependency. This isn't a choice, it's a feeling that you have to be with that person just to get through the day, just to survive. Its foundation isn't security, it's something called affective volatility, a constant, exhausting roller coaster of insane highs and crushing lows. So the huge takeaway from this section, the really chilling part, is this. The brain is systematically trained to crave the very person who is the source of all its distress. It's a bizarre and disorienting shift. You go from being this independent person to becoming completely dependent, where your whole world shrinks down to just getting that next hit of validation from one specific person.
So how does this dependency get so sticky? How does it get so deeply wired into us? Well, that brings us to section 2, anatomy of an addiction. Here, we're going to look at the 2 key belief patterns, the mental software, that keep this whole cycle locked in place.
The whole experience of traumatic bonding is usually held up by 2 really powerful beliefs. First, there's the chemistry illusion. This is the deep, unshakable belief that those incredible manic highs you feel are proof of some kind of unique, spiritual, once-in-a-lifetime connection. The second pattern is something called affective panic. And this isn't just missing someone. This is a state of genuine physical distress where you feel like you literally can't function. You can't eat, can't sleep when that person is distant or pulling away. And over time, if this dynamic continues, these beliefs can lead to a really profound and disturbing effect that people often report as identity colonization. This is where a person becomes so hyper-focused on managing the other person's emotional state, their ups and downs, that they just stop noticing their own basic needs. Things like their sleep, what they eat, their friendships, their career goals. It all just kind of fades away. It's like a slow erasure of their own identity. And all of this brings us to a really stark and critical realization, captured perfectly here. The intense feeling that's being labeled love in the situation, it isn't a gift that's being freely given. It's a carefully constructed chemical cage. It's a system designed, whether consciously or not, to keep you compliant by making the physical pain of leaving feel even worse than the emotional pain of staying. Okay, so if it's a chemical cage, how exactly is it built? What are the nuts and bolts? That takes us to section 3, the 3-step cycle. We are now going to break down the specific, repeatable pattern of behavior that's used to manufacture all this emotional volatility and ultimately this dependency. You know, when you study these dynamics, a surprisingly consistent pattern emerges. It's a cycle with 3 distinct, repeating phases. It kicks off with the love bomb saturation, which is then followed by intermittent withdrawal, and it all comes to a head with the reconciliation spike. And that last part, that's where the addiction is really locked in. So let's look at each step. The cycle always kicks off with what's called love bomb saturation. This is where the controller just floods you with extreme over-the-top validation, constant attention, huge displays of affection. The whole point is to establish this powerful, intoxicating baseline of validation, making you dependent on their attention for your sense of self-worth. It's so common for people to say that during this phase they felt truly seen or alive for the first time. And then, once you're way up on that high baseline, bam, step 2 hits, intermittent withdrawal. Abruptly, without any warning, all that intense validation just vanishes. The constant texts stop, the praise goes silent. This sudden absence triggers a huge cortisol spike. Cortisol is your body's main stress hormone. It's the chemical of panic. This phase is physiologically designed to make you anxious, confused, and distressed, and it sends you scrambling to figure out what you did wrong. Now, right here, this is where the trap snaps shut. Step 3, the reconciliation spike. Just as you're hitting your absolute lowest point of anxiety and desperation, the controller suddenly comes back with another overwhelming wave of affection and validation. And your brain, which is biologically wired to seek relief from the pain of rejection, is just flooded with this massive euphoric surge of dopamine and oxytocin, the powerful brain chemicals of reward and bonding. And this chart shows you exactly what that looks like in your brain. On the left, you've got that agonizing low of the withdrawal phase, deep in anxiety. In the middle, that's your normal, healthy emotional baseline. But look at the right. See the reconciliation spike? Notice how it doesn't just bring you back to normal, it shoots you way, way above it, into an extreme euphoric high. This is so critical. That reconciliation high feels more powerful, more meaningful than any normal, stable interaction ever could. So what's actually happening here on a deep biological level is the creation of something called dopamine-opioid bonding. Your brain's fundamental reward systems are being rewired in real time. Through this repeating cycle, your brain gets conditioned to associate the intense, euphoric relief of that reconciliation high with the feeling of safety. The chaos of the roller coaster starts to feel like home. And eventually, your brain makes a dangerous swap. It starts to treat intensity as if it's the same thing as safety. This neurological rewiring leads us straight into section 4, hacking the brain. We've covered the what, traumatic bonding, and the how, the 3-step cycle. So now let's explore the why. What are the underlying psychological principles that make this cycle so damn effective? When you really peel back the layers and look at the motivation behind this pattern, it's often described as a drive for total behavior monopolization. To put that more simply, it's not about love, it's about control. The endgame is to become the one and only provider of someone's emotional highs and lows, because if a person can successfully become your main source of dopamine, if they can basically become your drug, they gain absolute leverage over your choices, your thoughts, and your life. The psychological engine driving this whole addictive process is a powerful principle called intermittent reinforcement. And it's a simple, fascinating biological fact. Our brains get way more hooked on a reward that comes unpredictably, sometimes, than on a reward that comes all the time. It's the exact same mechanism that makes a slot machine so addictive. You have no idea when the payout is coming, so you just keep pulling the lever, chasing that unpredictable, exhilarating high. So what about on the other side of this? What makes someone more susceptible to this kind of thing? Well, research often points to a key vulnerability factor, a deep-seated need for high significance, a powerful, maybe unconscious desire to be the absolute center of someone else's world. And that intense love-bombing phase can feel like the answer to that prayer. Also, some of us may have been conditioned, maybe through movies or past experiences, to value dramatic love way more than quiet, stable love, mistaking chaos for passion. Okay, so understanding the mechanism is a huge first step. But how do you actually counteract it? How do you break the cycle? This brings us to probably the most important part of this whole explainer. Section 5, reclaiming your mind. We're now shifting from just explaining the problem to introducing some real, practical tools for recognizing it and ultimately empowering yourself. The path back to your own mind always begins with awareness. This cycle thrives in confusion, and that awareness can start by asking yourself one simple but incredibly powerful question the next time you feel that intense, desperate pull. Is this feeling I'm having genuine love, or is it a craving for relief from the physical pain of withdrawal? That core question leads to a really practical tool you can use called the Withdrawal Audit. It's all about just pausing, taking a breath, and accurately labeling what's going on inside you. So, like you see here, when you feel that crushing anxiety, you ask yourself, is this a healthy desire for connection, or is it a frantic fear of abandonment? When you feel that obsessive need to talk to them, you ask, is this real passion, or is this a chemical craving for my next fix? And when you feel that complete desperation, you ask, am I fighting for love, or am I just fighting to make the pain stop? The primary long-term solution to breaking this cycle is to cultivate what's called low-arousal awareness. Now, that sounds fancy, but it just means intentionally seeking out stable, calm environments and spending time with people who do not constantly spike your nervous system with drama and unpredictability. It's about detoxing. It's about letting your body and brain relearn what real peace and safety actually feel like, which is the direct antidote to an addiction to chaos. And you can really anchor this practice with a simple but profoundly powerful affirmation. I'm allowed to be calm. Now, this isn't just a nice little thought. For a brain that's been addicted to chaos, this is a radical statement. It's a declaration of physiological sovereignty. It's the conscious choice to interrupt that neurochemical roller coaster, giving yourself permission to just exist outside of it all. And that brings us to our final section and our core takeaway, the steady light. Let's boil everything we've talked about, the cage, the cycle, the psychology, down to the most important insights to carry with you. You know, if there's one core lesson to take from all of this, it's this. The most dangerous binding chains we'll ever experience aren't made of steel, they're invisible. They're the ones forged from our own powerful brain chemistry, from our brain's relentless drive for dopamine and our heart's incredible capacity for hope. But here's the most empowering part of this whole thing. That cycle, it's not unbreakable. It's powerful, for sure, but it is not permanent. The entire mechanism gets interrupted the very moment a person realizes their worth is inherent, not conditional. The chain breaks the instant you understand deep in your bones that you do not have to earn a hit of validation by submitting or by enduring pain. And ultimately, this all comes down to the clearest and most important distinction there is. Real love, the kind that actually nurtures you and helps you grow, is a steady light. It's consistent, it's reliable, it's warm. It is not, and it never should be, a flickering, disorienting strobe light that leaves you feeling dizzy, anxious, and desperate for the next brief flash. So just remember, your mind is private territory. It is your sovereign space. And the awareness we've talked about today, that's the key that unlocks the cage. It's what allows you to reclaim that territory and to make sure that someone else's emotional roller coaster never becomes the permanent walls of your own life. Thank you for joining us.